Hey, how's it going, everybody? Soulsteel here. Well, we're back at it. It's been a while since my last YouTube video. It's also been a while since I played Lost Ark and my last Lost Ark video. I had taken a break from the game for about a year. I believe it's been a year. It's basically when Hard Brel had first came out, and I was 2 to 3 weeks into my prog in Hard Brel, and I got tired of the waiting rooms and the gatekeeping, and I decided, you know what? I'm not having fun right now. I'll come back later, as long as the game's still up. But here I am. I'm having fun at the moment again. But there's still plenty of things to discuss after the announcements of from 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 after AGS released a roadmap on June 12th. There's still plenty to discuss. There's still plenty of things that could be changed, that could come to our region if enough people that have their voices heard. And this is just my way of voicing my opinions. Now, like I said just a few seconds ago, these are my opinions. You may agree or disagree with them, and that's completely fine. But I just want to get my voice out there on what I think needs to be changed. The first thing we need to discuss here are the vertical progression systems. As of right now, from 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and from Amazon, we finally got the announcement, the roadmap of when to expect the gold nerfs. Not the gold nerfs. They're the honing nerfs, the transcendence, and the elixir nerfs. They're coming in July. We don't know exactly when in July. I'm going to predict it's July 10th, which is the same day that Korea gets tier 4. That's my prediction, but it's still coming in a month from now. I don't think that it's coming fast enough for us and EU folk. We need these nerfs sooner rather than later. Simply put, because as it is right now, if in July, it comes out July 10th, it doesn't matter when in July, that's giving us 2 months to get our characters to 1580 plus. Now, the amount of gold that it's going to take to go from 1580 to 1620 is too dang high. And on top of that, the cost of transcendence is already painful as it is. Even if it's a 50% nerf, I will go ahead and tell you guys right now, and I know those who have been playing this game a lot longer and already have their transcendence like pretty far progressed, that for me to get my pants alone cost me 60,000 gold just to get 5 leaves. And I already know that people who have this maxed out, they spent way more. It doesn't change the fact that transcendence, even with the 50% nerf, is still going to take a lot of people's gold and slow a lot of people down. Even if it's 50%, 30,000 gold, it's still not a cheap amount. It's still very expensive. And then on top of that, you're telling people that they need to get themselves to 1620. You got to get your transcendence done. You got to get your elixirs done, which my elixirs are garbage. I have not been lucky with the elixirs either. And I can't even use the legendary elixirs because I'm not 1620. They aren't unlocked for me yet. But as it is right now, like, my purple elixirs have not been very nice to me. Oh yeah, I also forgot the vertical progression includes the full level 3 set, which I am not done yet. I will get it done this week. But point is just that the cost of these progression systems is so dang high for the amount of gold that we are earning per week. Now, like I said, the reason why I feel like we need these nerfs sooner rather than later, simply put, it gives us 2 months to prepare once we get those nerfs, because then it'll incentivize people to push to 1580, which, if I hide this again, like you can see, like I showed you, this is my 1610. She is my highest character. I've thrown a lot of gold at her, a lot of resources at her, but my other characters are nowhere near where she's at. My second highest is my paladin at 1583. So the problem is, simply put, that there's just not enough assistance right now for EU players to progress to be able to access tier 4. Now, that being said, I understand that the director of Smilegate said that players aren't expected to get to tier 4 day 1, and it will take time. He said weeks or months, maybe even, I know Zeal said maybe even a year, but I don't want to. But the point is just that once you introduce a new tier of content, people are not gonna feel happy being stuck in old content when you have new, more relevant content around the corner. They want to enjoy today's fresh meal. They don't want to ingest yesterday's leftovers. Like showing people, hey, you just need to get 1620 so you can convert your gear to 1640. Your transcendence and elixirs transfers over. That's great, but the problem is getting these systems in the first place. It's very costly getting the 1620. It's very costly getting your transcendence. It's very expensive getting your elixirs. It's very expensive getting decent accessories, which mine are not even perfect or anything like that. They're far from it. And getting a decent looking stone and upgrading your stone, like getting your engravings. I'm going all over the place here, but like it's expensive to get your character progressed. And as a returning player, yeah, you have a better idea of what to go to, where to go. But for new players, it is not that simple. It is not that well laid out for new players and where they need to go. And just throwing these systems at players and telling them, you need to do these things, you need to do them, you need to do them to get to tier 4, like without giving them enough resources to get there in the first place, is not good enough. There's just not enough guidance, and there's not enough like assistance to help them get there, to get them prepared. One of the biggest ones, I think, right here with the engraving books, where you're telling players in order to enjoy the Ark Pass, the Ark Passive, you need to have all these books learned that you need for your characters to build. Unfortunately, most new players are not going to have these leveled up. I barely have them leveled up as a returning player. And if I've barely got them leveled up with legendary status, the Makokos, you already know they're going to have practically 0. So the struggle of a new player is like, there's just so many things for a new player to have to digest in order to progress. And even for a returning player, there's still so much to digest. And there's so much more I have to now work on, because now I have to learn these engraving books if I want to eventually use the Ark passive. So from a veteran's perspective, like even knowing I have to do this is painful enough. Knowing that my goal doesn't, even with the 50% nerf on Transcendence, is still painful thinking about it. I just know that my first priority is to hit 1620, because then I can get the rest of my characters caught up. But as of right now, I can only focus on one character, and I still won't be ready for tier 4. And my priority isn't even to thinking about tier 4 necessarily, but thinking about the path to get there. I discussed the first two things that new players are struggling, like myself, getting characters leveled up with the current gold income because of the gold nerfs to 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and normal 𝙀𝙬𝙉. The new players and returning vets like myself, our gold income is significantly lower than those who have been playing nonstop. It does not help players like myself and Makokos in getting the gold that they need to progress their characters. Their income is way too low per week. Most new Makokos will only have only one character, which is the Makoko Express character that's going to be built. The second character is going to be too expensive to build. So it's getting a roster of characters to progress with. If you don't swipe, it's challenging. If you do swipe, it's obviously a little bit easier, but it's still very challenging for a new player, which is why I suggest here revert the gold nerfs on 𝙀𝙬𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and normal 𝙀𝙬𝙉. We'll go here in a second, but I do need to discuss this. Like, I just went over this a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Releasing new content and literally gatekeeping the new content for only Giga Whales to access first is poor design. I stand by this, in that in Final Fantasy XIV, for instance, in order to access new content, all you need is to purchase the latest expansion and get the story done up to that point. From what I remember is that they streamline the old content so that way you get the gear whenever you get to a certain point in the story, so that way you can access the new raids right away. You can access the new story, the new content right away. You're not paying a executive price tag to gain access to that stuff. When you introduce tier 4, people want to go and be able to at least get into tier 4. They don't want to stay in tier 3 for another month or 6 months while their friends are doing tier 4. They want to be able to jump into the more relevant content together. The only way to do that is to streamline the old content. Now, I can understand the counter arguments of there's only going to be a few raids in tier 4, so there's not as much to do. Tier 3 is still relevant content. It costs players a lot of money to get to their progression to where they are. It doesn't matter to me. You need players to be able to access the latest content, or at least be able to get caught up sooner rather than later. Reducing the gold costs and the resource costs up to 1620 would be ideal. The raids for tier 3 will still be done as of right now because there's just not enough raids for tier 4 to override the necessity for tier 3. They've only got I forgot what his name is, 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 or whatever, and the new 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, and then new 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉 eventually. So we have 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉, we have behemoth, we have 𝙀𝙓𝙃 and 𝙀𝙀. So that's 4. That's 2 tier 4 and 2 end game tier 3 raids to think about. There's plenty of things to do at the higher item levels. We need more players to be able to access the later content. Simple as that. The population that's going to be able to do 𝙀𝙀, the new 𝙀𝙃, the people that are going to be able to do the new 𝙀𝙀, the available player base that's going to be able to access this content is not going to be that great. I can already tell you that right now. Just like when I remember th8n struggling, with people struggling to get supports. I remember hard 𝙀𝙀 where supports were charging gold for their service. And it's always been a problem when it's the latest content. There's just not enough people who are at those item level thresholds to populate the parties, or as many parties. So we need to get more of the population caught up. So I think that the nerfs should go up to 1620. Just help people get there faster, make it cheaper, make it quicker. The second is to revert the gold nerfs from 𝙀𝙁𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and normal 𝙀𝙀. Simply because a lot of the players are here. A lot of the players are at this point. There's people who are doing normal triangle. There's people who are still doing they're doing normal triangle, hard triangle. There's people who are doing a con. That's great, but I still see a lot of parties for these, and they're not all card runs. So we need the Makokos and we need returning vets to be able to get the gold that they need in order for them to progress. Even with the honing nerfs up to 1580, which I would like to see it, like I said, up to 1620. Even with those nerfs, you still need the gold in order to click. You still need the gold to click, and you still need the gold to buy the resources that you do not have if you run out. You still need it, and you still need the gold to buy the books, your engraving books. You still need the gold to buy your gems if you're not grinding for the gems. You still need gold for that. Otherwise, you need gold for your honing, your transcendence. You need gold for your materials that whenever you run out. So we need to help new players and veterans get their gold. And you may disagree with me, and that's completely fine. I understand the idea that reverting to gold nerfs, it could lead to people going back to bust bots for selling gold, RMT gold. As far as I'm concerned, that is not my concern. And to me, that is Amazon's concern. To ban the RMTers, to ban the gold sellers, to ban the bots. That's their problem, not our problem. Our problem is simply trying to get the money to play the game, and still being charged a high price, a high fee to gain access to more relevant content is just ludicrous to me when you nerf the gold. I even say right here, it doesn't matter if Smilegate is about to nerf honing to 1540. I'm talking about the silver nerfs. They could make it the 1580 with the where it only costs silver, and the gold that is earned from the raids is still needed so players can hone their gear past that. That's obvious, right? That's stating the obvious. Oh, you need gold in order to progress past this point. The thing is like, even if you made it where, okay, cool, you can get the 1580 with just silver. Now 1580 plus, it's gonna cost gold. The click per hone on a con gear is still gonna be painful. The clicks on getting from 1580 to 60 is still gonna be costly. It's still expensive as it is. Per click, gold just for clicking, and then the materials themselves are still expensive per click. So and a lot of, say, the Makokos, for instance, a lot of the Makokos are still learning 𝙀𝙁𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 and normal 𝙀𝙀. Most of them are gonna end up here at normal 𝙀𝙀 because it pays the most out of these 3 earlier raids. But the thing is that these Makokos, they need whatever gold that they can get in order for them to progress. And a lot of Makokos, when they're first starting out, they only have the one character. So if they can get gate 1 through 4 done somehow miraculously, that's, what is that, 8,500 gold for every other week. That's not a whole lot of gold to progress with. Now, I understand that when these gold nerfs are supposed, as of right now, they're happening in July. Like I said earlier, I think it's July 10th is my prediction. That's still 2 months of building up gold. And if you're a Makoko with only one character, what is that? That's 4 weeks of 8,500, so that's 34,000 gold. And then I think it's 6,000 without Gate 4. So on just Braille normal alone, that's 58,000 gold from just Braille normal alone for 2 months. That's hardly anything in order to get you from 1580 to 1600, and then let alone 1600 to 1620. And so that's just Braille normal alone. 𝙀𝙋𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, yeah, you can already guess. Like that's just 4,000 gold on the one character. So, or even if you did Clown, Braille, and Vicus, you know, that's still hardly anything. Now, like I said before, I understand the progress, the pacing of people going into tier 4. It's not meant to be rushed. I'm just gonna be real. Whenever new content comes out, nobody wants to be left behind. So it doesn't matter if they say it's not meant to be rushed. People are gonna rush for it. New players are not as likely to get into harder raids like Hard Braille, Akan, Voltus, Thaymine, etc. without previous raiding experience. If the older raids do not offer incentives for new players to run them and do not provide the resources they'll need in the future to hone their gear, it slows down their own progress. So what I was getting at here, there's a lot of gatekeeping. In order for me to get into Hard Braille as it is right now, my Slayer, who's 1565, cannot get into a Hard Braille. I got gatekept from Hard Braille because I'm 1565, which is 5 item levels higher than what's necessary for Gate 4. And I got gatekept. People want to do Hard Braille with 1600s only. When I'm getting into Hard Braille solo, I get gatekept if it's not on a juice character. So I only have 2 characters that can run Hard Braille right now. Akan, it would be the same thing. In order to get into Akan, if unless you're doing a learning party, you'll need to be juiced. It's not as likely for new players to get in without paying for buses. It's not likely they're not as likely to get into these harder raids without previous raiding experience. While tier 3 is still relevant content that most players are still running, it does not make sense to nerf the gold until there's enough tier 4 content to outweigh the older raids. So like I was mentioning earlier, that when there's more relevant raids in tier 4, and like as more players are at the higher end of content, like when the majority of your population is at that threshold, is at that point, then it makes sense to say, all right, all older content is nerfed. We're nerfing the gold for it. We're nerfing honing so that we can get players to the newer content faster, which I know that they're doing, but it's still like a 50-50, right? Like you're being brought halfway there when you're getting nerfed honing up to 1580. But like that's half the battle up to getting the 1620. Actually, that's not even up to 1620. That's up to 1600. It's half the battle to get the 1600. From 1600 to 1620, it's a lot of resources. It still is not enough in my opinion. I still think that until more people are up there past this where we are right now, it's just not. It just doesn't make sense to me why the raids are getting gold nerfs. A compromise, I said ` could add a similar system like Argos and the other Abyss raids. If you're within a certain item level range, you gain full gold value, like 4,500 for 𝙀𝙋𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 Clown, and I forgot the old the old gold that you earned from normal Braille. But then I basically, like, for those of you who may not know what Argos is, because Argos is unfortunately really old, irrelevant content now. Argos used to pay, I think it was 2,500 gold when it was new, and then it was nerfed to 1,000. But you had to be below 1460. So once you hit 1460, you got no gold. But if you were below 1460, you could still get your gold reward. And what people used to do is on new characters, they would home to 1455, I think it was, get the gold, then go to 1460 plus, and then they would lose the incentive of doing Argos, but they would get their first time gold reward from Argos. But no, there's no point to do that now, because now everyone is streamlined past that content, so you don't do it anymore. That is when it made sense to me to like nerf that, but I feel like the nerf to it at that time, it made sense when you had normal Brel, which paid a lot more. This is the compromise I thought up of, is just simply make it where for 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, Clown, and normal Brel, and eventually all these other raids, when you are within a certain item level threshold, you get the full value from the raid, as in like 4,500. But once you surpass it, then you get the gold nerf. And then once we are all in tier 4, you can do the same thing like in tier 1 and 2. You can drop it down, or you just delete the gold, because now nobody's running those raids. It becomes outdated content that nobody does anymore. That's the only time when it makes sense to do that. But until we are there, that should not happen. Since player item levels for most Makokos are going to be 1580 plus due to the express passes, and basically the gold nerfs as well, item level restrictions could be set from 1445 to 1620. I chose 1620 as an example since tier 4 starts at 1620, but the range could be adjusted, of course. I think that realistically, once you are at 1600, the gold nerf should happen for those older raids. I think that once you're 1600, in order to push people like me who are returning vets, you're 1600, then we should be getting pushed out of doing these raids. We should be getting pushed out of normal Brel. Should be only be doing hard Brel. Should be doing a con, normal or hard. Should be doing Voldus. Should be doing Triangle. Should be doing Thamine. That makes sense to me. But here's the reason why I'm saying 1600. Because of the fact that I mentioned earlier that in order to get into hard Brel, you need to be way over leveled for it. Like, people are not inviting people who are under a certain item level. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. Because people are getting gatekept who are not over 1580, it feels like the threshold for the gold nerf item restriction should go from the lowest to 1580, I think would be fair. The item level restrictions should be based off of the gatekeeping restrictions that players are kind of being subjected to. I can see the implications of players only farming old content until tier 4 and not wanting to learn the new raids, or gold farmers, RMT users possibly abusing this. Those are not as damaging to the game as slowing down player progression in my eyes, but RMT is still a plague on any game. My argument is simply that the pros outweigh the cons. Helping Makokos get themselves to earning the gold so they can progress their characters, so they can get into the raids, so they can learn the newer raids and get past the old content, to me, is more beneficial than saying, oh, well, we nerfed the gold because we don't want the botters botting the gold to sell it for RMT. I don't care. That's Amazon's concern. That's Amazon's, for us, that is. That's Amazon's concern. That is their job, to ban the RMT sellers, ban the people who are purchasing RMT, and ban the bots. That's their job. That is their responsibility. That should not slow down our own progress. It should not affect our gameplay. Another thing that we need to talk about are cards. Gatekeeping has always been a problem for Lost Ark, and cards have always been a metric of player experience, time played, wallet size, proper card setup, etc. If I were to host a raid, whenever I look at somebody, the first thing that anybody ever pays attention to are the cards. I mean, for me, it's roster level, then cards. This is the order of operations. Then I look at gems, then I look at engravings, and then I accept or decline. I mostly accept people because I don't like gatekeeping. Oh, sorry, I blocked that. But basically, I was just saying, whenever it comes to me, yeah, I look at roster level, then cards, and then I do gems, engravings, and then I accept or decline. But like I said, I normally accept because I don't like gatekeeping. I will only gatekeep on people that look like they're not even trying. And I mean supports coming in with no gems and no engravings. Those are the people I will decline, because it's like, are you even playing the game at that point? At this point, the card system is very ancient, and if Smilegate really wants to move forward, I put forwards by accident. I typed this up pretty late. If Smilegate really wants to move forward with tier 4, cards either need to be removed, which is unlikely because of them wanting to not piss off too many whales. They need to either remove cards, like I said, they're not going to do. they're not as likely to do. They need to hand everyone cards, full card sets that are fully awakened. Allow us to purchase multiple cards from the wandering merchants whenever they appear. So for instance, if I see Wei, I want to be able to buy that card 15 or so times just until I can fully awaken them. It really slows down progress when I still have to go run around and do card runs. It's just annoying. Or you get rid of the awakened status of cards. Now, this one is just like the likelihood of this one happening is the same as the deletion of cards entirely. And then gems. Here we go. We already know that Smilegate announced that they are going to release tier 3 gems for free to all to help with the transition period to tier 4. We, like I discussed earlier, the Amazon on the roadmap says that we're getting the 5x3 engraving support permanently. We're getting free gems, permanent gems to help us get to tier 4. And then this is just the argument saying we need this sooner rather than later. Simply put, is that a lot of players right now, a lot of Makokos, for instance, may not be aware that we have these systems coming soon. They may not be aware that, hey, we got these assistance programs. Hold on to your money. Just bank, wait a month, and then spend. Also, the fact that, like, gems, like, don't spend too much money on getting your gems up. Don't spend too much money buying gems. Just hold and wait. Also, because of the engraving support and the gem support, this will make it more accessible for every player to be able to play their roster, to boost their gold income for the time being. And then I say right here, I don't care about the market crashing on level 7 gems. Giving 7+ will incentivize players to currently smash their gems for higher levels. And then I also made the argument, I could see the possibility of people starting to try to gatekeep on level 7 gems, and they want to see people with level 8+. We kind of already have that with 𝙀𝙋 a little bit. But I think having the gems and the engraving system and also the honing system sooner would be more beneficial rather than later. This, I remember, I typed this up before we saw that we're getting this in July as well. But I'm just going to TLDR what I think is that I think that the gold rewards for solo raids should be equivalent to the hard mode of the raids. So for instance, when you're doing solo Vulcan, solo 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, solo Clown, solo 𝙀𝙗, solo Brel, etc., whenever you're doing it solo, you should get the equivalent of gold and rewards as hard mode. The reason why I say this is simply because in a normal raiding experience, you have 7 other people helping you out. And in the solo experience, obviously you're by yourself. It's in the name, solo raids. The reason why most people are going to be trying solo raids, if not focusing on doing solo raids, is simply because the amount of gatekeeping that goes on in the party raids. It's difficult to get into party raids for a lot of people because of the gatekeeping, and so it then makes it difficult for players to progress. And by nerfing the amount of gold, nerfing the gold reward from solo raids just makes it that much slower for players to progress that are being gatekept. Which is why I honestly just feel like for a solo raid experience, the gold nerf is unnecessary as well. And we've already got solo raids technically a little bit here. We have solo Vulcan that already pays 7,000 gold for people who are bussing, because most people who bus Vulcan are now they're doing it solo. They've been doing it solo for years, so there's already the solo raid experience for Vulcan right there, and they're getting 7,000 gold per run. But I know that a con, for instance, each player is like each bus driver is getting 10k, 10 to 12k gold. So, in my opinion, this is the way that Smilegate can combat bussers. Instead of adding so many wipe mechanics, how about you implement the solo raids? How about you just pay the same as hard mode for doing a solo raid, and then just like the current price of hard mode, the current rewards for hard mode. So, for instance, I think hard 𝙀𝙗 pays like 10k, 10,500 gold. Make it where solo raids on a con, for instance, let's just go with the con. Solo raid, 10,500 for doing it solo, but then you buff the party gold for hard 𝙀𝙗 to 12,000 or 13,000, whatever. Increase it. Make it more of an incentive for people to Like, make it where it pays more for party, a little bit more, but make it where if you're doing it solo, it's not that much of a loss if you decide to do it solo versus doing a party. Make it where you don't feel like you're missing out because you're getting gatekept. I just think that solo raids should be more, there should be more of an incentive to doing solo raids than paying a bus. Is basically what I'm just trying to get at here. I don't care about bots running solo raids for gold. Just ban them. I don't care if it defeats the purpose of party raids. It won't. It will never defeat the purpose of party raids. The only reason why we really need solo raids is because of the gatekeeping, which has been a pretty, I would say, a pretty substantial contributor to the player count dropping. Like, burnout, I understand. Burnout, yeah, people will quit games because of burnout. But people are also getting burned out because they're getting gatekept, and they're also seeing the amount, like, it's frustrating when you're getting gatekept alone, and then after you finally get a raid done, then you get to watch all that gold disappear. Your gold disappearing because of the vertical systems, it's disappearing because of buses. We need more reasons for players to not pay for buses and instead get more gold from actually doing the content, even if it's them doing it by themselves. Get people into these raids. Stop giving people reasons to pay for buses. Don't punish players by implementing mechanics that is supposed to combat busing, because you, unfortunately, Smilegate, you have failed at stopping busing. Busing will never not be a problem for games. Like, solo raids should have been a thing a long time ago, in my opinion, to combat buses. Instead of adding all these wipe mechanics, it should have just been solo raids. Solo raid into party raids. Gold inflation should not be of anyone's concern with the amount of gold sinks that exist. Even if we somehow manage to get gold buffs and vertical content nerfs, the gold sinks are still going to drain your gold faster than it takes to earn it. But at least more gold equates to more progression. Returning players need a means to earn gold, and if they cannot get into a party, simply making their own lobby isn't always possible. Even players looking for parties gatekeep based on lobby host. Alright, so the next thing I think that we need is better communication / support from Amazon. At the typing of this, it was basically when everyone was memeing Amazon about making the announcement on Saturday after Low-On that we needed to wait 2 more days. We needed to wait till June 10th for the announcement on the roadmap. And then when June 10th comes along on Monday, we get an announcement that we're going to get an announcement on July. And then we finally got an announcement yesterday, June 12th, that we have a somewhat of a decent looking roadmap. But that's kind of like the point I'm getting at, is that the communication and support for the game from Amazon Studios needs to be improved upon. It has been kind of a joke, as a lot of people have been talking about. I've been out of the loop, but I'm kind of getting the picture that things are not as great as they should be. We need AGS to fight for the players of their region and delay or completely delete alter changes that hinder player progression, aka an example is gold nerfs to raids. Now, of course, I'm not talking about delaying tier 4. And then I said right here, I originally estimated that we were about 6 months behind Korea in terms of content. And with the announcement of the delay, it seems like we're going to be even further behind. And like I said, I added these things when we had that announcement. Now we have a better understanding, so this is not as relevant. Delaying content tells players, okay, well, I'm going to go take 6 months break. I don't care. I'll wait till the nerfs come in, and then I'll play. Or whatever. Or I'll wait till more of these things are nerfed, and then I'll just come back to the game when tier 4 is in full motion. I believe it is oftentimes better to assist regions that are behind by speeding them up with assistance of vertical progression systems such as honing, transcendence, elixirs, cards, gems, etc. Nerfing these vertical systems so players can get caught up. NAAU will likely miss out on quality life changes that will help players progress easier and faster. This was back, like I said, when we didn't know. We still didn't have a roadmap yesterday. Now we have a roadmap. What I would like to see introduced into the game. Now, these are things that ideas from other games like that I've played, like Final Fantasy 14, and other things I just thought about, right? So the first thing is the mentor system. It's simple. If you are a veteran, like this would come hand in hand with the commendation system, where if you are a veteran and you have a lot of commendations, this is just, hey, this guy is a good player, they're well-mannered, whatever the criteria people put in. Like, we could have a more in-depth commendation system. Then that person can then apply to become a mentor. These mentors could help assist 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿, help them progress with their characters. Now, what would be the incentive? Well, you could offer additional gold rewards or material rewards like gold, silver, materials, etc. You can help them these incentives to jump into the program in the first place. Maybe we'll end up with so many mentors, like the gatekeeping and the toxicity might be toned down a bit because, hey, I want to be a mentor. I want to earn some bonus gold. I want to earn extra silver because I helped 𝙀𝙓𝙋𝘼𝙉𝘿 go through their very first raids. Anti-jail ideas. Everyone has talked about allowing players to rerun previous gates with no rewards for gates completed. This would allow jails to no longer pose a problem. Obviously, I shouldn't have worded as saying no longer pose a problem. I should have said the jails would not be as big of an issue. Like, players in the past have talked about, hey, why can't we just rerun gate 1, 2, and do so we can just get a new party to run through it and then get the gate 3 and then do it again, because it's so hard to get people to do the last gate when most people are able to one-shot it, for instance. The other idea is simple as this. Why does Lost Ark have to be one of the few games where there's no resurrection system? In Final Fantasy XIV, you have resurrection mechanics for healers, as well as limit breaks that resurrect the entire raid. Everybody who's dead in a raid, as long as there's one healer that uses the limit break, they can resurrect the entire raid. But why is it that, like, Lost Ark is like the only MMO I've played so far where there's no resurrection system? Even World of Warcraft, like, you have resurrections, and Black Desert, they all have raids where you can resurrect people. The raids they're still challenging to do. So there's really no reason to not have a resurrection system in this game at this rate. For supports, just make it, I don't know, maybe make that the Hyper Awakening. Maybe add another button for supports only to resurrect people. Adding a resurrection system doesn't take away from the difficulty of the raids. Like, other games have mythic, you have mythic raids, and WoW, you have Savage and Final Fantasy. They still have resurrection mechanics that still make and the raids are still challenging. If they really want to, they can make it where Hell mode is the only mode where resurrection is disabled. I still don't think this is necessary, but I still think that could be the compromise. They could leave it where Hell mode is, where you have no resurrections. If you want to keep that difficulty level, let the Sweat Lords have their titles and keep the challenge. If they really want it that badly, let the community decide. And then obviously stop adding raids with wipe mechanics. Raid wipes, from what I remember hearing, they were meant to stop busters, but they failed because buses still happen. Failing mechanics should just result in damage, not in jails. And then a re-entry idea I had was letting players who have completed raids be able to replay raids, and instead of getting gold and instead of getting regular loot, they just get silver. For instance, oh, I completed Bro 1 through 4 hard. I can go and help either, like, I could complete Bro 1 through 4 normal or hard again, but instead of getting gold or mats, I just get silver for it. And then I said, I understood that this could be abused by busters. My thought process was more so in considering how in other MMOs, I can help my friends run in dungeons that I've already completed. Examples, Final Fantasy XIV, where I can run dungeons as many times as I want. There's nothing stopping me from just running it again and again and again. And then my last argument was that busters will always bust. They always find a way to bust. Adding more systems to try and combat it is pointless and just hurts the overall player base more than the busters. The TLDR of everything is just that we need to get past the old systems as quickly and as efficiently as possible. The main reason why we cannot keep thinking about why, like, the main reason why we can't just keep catering to hardcore veterans who have been playing the game nonstop, the whales who have been spending nonstop, we can't just keep catering to them, is as simple as this. The population of the player base that's able to do the latest of endgame content is much smaller than the people who can do the early game, the earlier, older content. If the player base, the gap between the majority of the player base and the Giga Whales is too great, and only the Giga Whales can do the new content, there's not going to be enough people at your end game content to fill up lobbies. It's just like the story of in Diablo Immortal, I remember this story was like a year or two ago where this guy spent like $100,000 on a character to get the best of the best of everything, gems, gear, etc. And he paid for all that to do PvP, and he queues, and you can only do PvP for 2 hours out of the day. And every time he clicks the queue, he cannot get a game because the gear gap between him and the next person down is too great, and the game can't matchmake him with anybody. So he paid all that money to not play the game. That's going to be the problem with Lost Ark. For a game that just keeps focusing on what the Giga Whales and like the super hardcore players want. They like, as much money as they throw at the game, they are still the minority of the game, is the reality of it. But like, if you don't have enough players that are able to do the content with those players, then they are not going to get the return on investment that they think that they're going to get. They paid the exclusive price for all the gear progressions that they have gotten to get there sooner. But if they can't get the lobbies that they need, I mean, they're just not going to be happy. I mean, they're not going to be able to do the content. So we need to get more players to be able to do that content, so that way they have people to party up with. One way or the other, these older systems like cards, gems, engravings, the gear, the progression to get to the gear that's needed for tier 4, the old stuff needs to be streamlined so that way we can get more people. Oh yeah, elixirs and transcendence. We need to get this all streamlined so that way people can get to the end game sooner. So that way there's more people who are able to host up lobbies on the new toys. People want to drive the new car. Most of the players, I'm sure, are tired of running. We're tired of riding on the bicycle. It's time to move on to the Jag, aka the new Kazros raid. We have Echidna, we have Aegir, we have the new Brel raid. We need to move on. We need to graduate from tier 3 to tier 4 sooner. That's just the TLDR of what I think. Like, this is just my thoughts on what we need as a region to get us progress faster. You guys may agree, you may disagree, and it's completely fine. I just felt like voicing myself. Thanks again for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you leave a comment, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your arguments, your counter arguments? What do you guys think? Like, share your ideas. I'm more than eager to read it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy. Peace.